This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. My name is Jay, and today we're going to be reviewing all the matches from Round 8 of the 2025 AFL season. So stick around, enjoy, make sure you like, follow, comment, all of the above. Welcome on in, everybody, to the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. My name is Jay, and we're going to be wrapping up Round 8. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at all 9 matches from the weekend. We're going to look at the best players, best teams, everything you need to know about what happened on the football field in the AFL this weekend. As always, we're doing 2 episodes this week, as we do every week. We do a preview episode that goes out every Thursday morning, and then we have our review episode that goes out every Monday, usually Monday night time. By the time it gets the weekend gets wrapped up, filming happens and whatnot. So, welcome on in. This is the Round 8 review episode. We'll go through the games one by one as we do each and every week. I've added a few things to this episode. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is, whatever platform you are listening / watching this on. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check out the socials, All Aussie Rules everywhere. Other than that, let's jump into it. Footy. First game of the round. It was Thursday night football. It was Marvel Stadium. It was Essendon, North Melbourne. Neither team expecting huge things this season. And let's be honest, it wasn't the most exciting game most of the way through, but it ended up quite close. Essendon win it by 3 points, 9-11-65. North Melbourne 9-8-62. It went to the wire. I think clearly Essendon were the better team in this game, but Kangaroos put up a fight in the end. It could have gone either way, really, in that last 15 minutes or so, but Essendon managed to hold on. At no point in this game did the Kangaroos actually lead it. They were level for the first little bit, first 51 seconds, and then midway through the last quarter, or pretty early in the last quarter, they were level for about the space of probably another 2 minutes. And other than that, the Bombers led the whole way, which suggests that perhaps they were in control, but it never really, outside of, I guess, from late in the first quarter to early in the third, it was pretty clear that the Bombers were in control, but then Kangaroos kicked 4 in a row midway through that third quarter and just got themselves back in it, and that was enough to scare the Bombers, I think. They never quite got in front, though, the Kangas. A look at some of the stats in this one. Really low inside 50 count for both teams, in all honesty. 41 for the Bombers, 46 for the Kangaroos. So a lot of bowling, just not doing much, not much movement. It was just a very bland game in many ways. Clearance-wise, 34-30 in favour of the Kangaroos, which Bombers typically are a pretty decent clearance team. So, they certainly were beaten in this one. Not by much, but were beaten. Contested footy went slightly the way of the Bombers. Kangaroos turned it over too much in the end. Plus 7 turnovers for the Kangaroos. Never ideal. Outside of that, tackle count's pretty level. Player stats, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll jump into expected score. Bombers were slightly above on that. Expected to win by roughly 7 points or so. So they weren't too far off that. Score sources, nothing sticks out like a sore thumb. It was a low-scoring affair, so pretty low-scoring across the board. Kangaroos did manage 2 goals straight from kick-ins, which is a really good return. Meanwhile, from centre bounce, Bombers managed 2 goals and the Kangaroos managed 0-3. Their last few weeks have been quite poor from the centre bounce. After the first couple of weeks, they started really well, the Kangaroos. The last few weeks have certainly dropped off in that area. Not in massively concerning ways, but certainly has dropped off a little bit. A a look at some of the players in this one. If you're watching the screen, you can see a graphic that has the best players and team ratings and stuff. I will go a bit more in depth than what will be shown on the screen. We'll talk it through. I do a rating system. I created it over about 15, 16 months of a lot of changes, a lot of adjustments to the system, and I feel like, there's no perfect stat system for a game. It takes into account a lot of different stats, and I'm pretty happy with it, how it stands. So we give every player a rating. We also give every player a position. We then get a class of classification on how well somebody has played. So you get the rating points, but you also have the class based on their positioning as well. So there was 2 players that had an elite game in this one. No surprise, Zach Merritt was outstanding. He was single-handedly the reason that the Bombers managed to hold on in this game. There's no doubt about it. So he rated elite as an inside mid this week. The other player that rated elite was Tristan Cherry in the ruck role. He was, I think, the 3rd best ruckman for the week. Surprisingly, well, maybe not surprisingly, but 2 really outstanding performances by ruckman went above him. But his rating of 87.74 is still clearly in that elite range. Plenty of players in the top class. So elite is the top 10%. Top class is like 10% down to 25%. Quite a few players on, especially the Bombers side of things. They had one other inside mid do well in Sam Durham. They then had key defender Zach Reid. He rated top class. Xavier Dersma on the outside mid role was top class. Nick Martin and Archie Perkins, both as general forwards, made it into top class as well. Archie Perkins started the game really well. Didn't continue that throughout. Drifted out of it at times, but still did enough with his 3 goals to get into the top class range. Whereas for the Kangaroos, they only managed 3 players in top class. 1 inside mid, which was Jai Simpkin, and Harry Sheasel as a general defender, and then Dylan Stevens as an outside mid. Outside of that, plenty of injuries both sides. Bombers had 2 players not even play 50%. Every team has to have one every week, but the Kangaroos also had the one who also was an injury. So plenty of injuries. Bombers, I guess Zach Merritt got them over the line, in all honesty. They looked like they were in control. They let the Kangaroos back in a low-scoring game to be 4 goals up and then only win by 3 points is interesting, but they really struggled to score in the second half, did the Bombers. But in the end, they did enough without being spectacular. They only managed 2 goals for 6 in the second half, whereas the Kangaroos managed 6 goals 4 in that second half. So yeah, that's basically it. Zach Merritt, clearly 3 Brownlow votes, I think. I've given the 2 to Tristan Xerri. I think he was really, really outstanding in this one. 1 vote could go to a host of players. Sam Durham's certainly in that conversation. I think Jai Simpkin might be. Harry Sheasel had plenty of the ball. I went Jai Simpkin, although Sam Durham's very unlucky in my opinion. So that's my 3-2-1. We do my MVP as well, which I haven't created graphics for the leaderboard yet, but we will run through the leaderboard at the end of this episode. But just know that Zach Merritt clearly got the 10 votes in this one. We'll jump into Friday night football, and this might have been the stinkiest Friday night game we'll get this year. I certainly hope it is, because I don't want to live through that one again. It wasn't great, let's be honest. It was St Kilda hosting Fremantle. It was at Marvel Stadium, and it ends up being an absolute flogging. 94-33 in favour of the Saints. What is going on in Dockerland? They're really struggling to travel. And this was just the worst of the worst, in all honesty, for them. Key reason, their midfielders, who are their best players, arguably their best players, couldn't get into the game. So Hayden Young obviously got injured. He missed a fair chunk of this game. He only managed 27% time on ground. But even their other two big inside mids, Caleb Sarong and Andrew Brayshaw, both rated below average in this match. Their best ball winners, their best clearance players, just couldn't get their hands on the football, and for whatever reason, it was a really, really bad game for them. Moving into team stats for this one, I mean, the game was over. I guess it was never fully over, but 1-1 at halftime for Fremantle, even though St Kilda only had 4-3. It was a bad sign, and then it just never really got going. They conceded 4 goals 3 in the third quarter, while only managing 1 goal 2. And then in the final quarter, it got even worse. They conceded 6 goals in that last quarter to end up giving up 94, only managing 33. It was a pretty dismal performance from the Dockers. Stats-wise, almost 100 extra disposals in favour of St Kilda. Inside 50s, plus 27. Yes, you heard that right. St Kilda had plus 27. If you look at the previous 2 weeks, St Kilda had been absolutely dismantled in the inside 50 count. And somehow, they've turned it around and absolutely demolished the Dockers in that area. Another stat that's incredible here. Fremantle, who last year were the best clearance team, this year are still up there. Probably not anymore, in all honesty. This number will blow that out of the water. They lost clearances by 28. That is ridiculous. 50 clearances for St Kilda, 22 for Fremantle. It was centre clearances 13-5 for St Kilda, and it was stoppage clearances 37-17 in favour of St Kilda. Those are ridiculous numbers. You can use the Fremantle away in Melbourne argument all you want, but it was a bad day. And yeah, in the end, I just can't forgive it, to be honest. Certainly won't be tipping Fremantle in Melbourne again anytime soon. They've played some stinkers here already this year. Contested football plus 48, so St Kilda were just winning it in every way possible. Uncontested footy plus 60, so St Kilda also had a ton more of the football, ended up even on turnovers. That's another bad sign there for the Dockers. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about those numbers, in all honesty. If we were to look at some of the other stats here, we got expected score will not surprise you at all. St Kilda actually would have won by more. 66-ish is the general consensus. They had a lot more shots in this. They should have won by more, in all honesty. 31-10 shots was the final synopsis there. St Kilda did it from stoppage. As we said, they dominated that stoppage game, and they turned it into scores, 53-14. Really good effort there. Turnovers, as I said, both teams had the same amount of turnovers for the match, but St Kilda really made use of it. 41-19 in that regard. And it was forward half work from the St Kilda too. 42 of their 90-odd points came from forward half origin, whereas 39 from the defensive half. So that's a really good conversion rate in that forward half. They just did what they needed to do, and Fremantle just had zero answers throughout the night. We'll look at some of the best players in this game. We'll start with St Kilda. They were obviously the winning team. They were the better team in this one. They had 4 players rate elite in this match. There was one inside mid, which was Jack McRae. He had an outstanding game. Almost cracked the 100-point mark in my rating system. 2 key forwards for St Kilda managed to rate elite. One of them, Cooper Sharman. I've been big on this guy for a while now. Doesn't always live up to our expectations, but he certainly played really well here in this one. He was elite, as was Mitch Owens, who played a good game. And one key defender also was elite, and that was Callum Wilkie. Other good players, top class, Nashaya Wanganeen-Malira as a general defender, Bradley Hill. Played less wing this time and played a bit more forward. He played really well. Jack Steele was also really good in this game. On the other side of the fence, there's a lot of below-average players. Based on how the system works, you should technically have basically, about 10 players rate below average per game. I haven't worked this out before, so I'll just quickly count them. 5, 8, 9, 10, 17 players for Fremantle were below average in this game. So that's way over the expected and the normal. Really, really bad in so many ways. They had 2 players rate elite. Won't surprise you that they're both backmen. The ball was in their backline a lot. Alex Pearce had plenty of it, was pretty decent in all honesty. And the other one was general defender Corey Wagner. Had a good game. Wasn't outstanding, but did well enough. They also had 2 players in top class range, and they were both defenders as well, Luke Ryan and Brennan Cox. The ball was just in that back line all day long, and they put up an okay fight, but the rest of the team just didn't do enough. Like Caleb Sarong, below average. Andrew Brayshaw, below average. Bo Fruckman, Sean Darcy, Luke Jackson, below average. Jordan Clark, another big name, below average. All their key forwards. Josh Tracy was 44th ranked player on the field. Jaya Miss was 36th. So their 2 best forwards, key forwards, both really low ranked as well. The ball didn't go down their end too often, in all honesty. But, Another one, Bolton, he was 45th best player on the ground. So just so many players well below their best in this one. So my votes, Brownlow votes for this one. Jack McRae, I think, clearly deserves the 3 votes. He was outstanding. I went Nashaya Wanganeen-Malira for 2, and I think Cooper Sharman might be a chance for the 1. Other players that could be in the conversation, Jack Steele, maybe Callum Wilkie, Rowan Marshall, maybe Brad Hill. But as I said, I've gone McRae, Nashaya Wanganeen-Malira, and Cooper Sharman for my 3-2-1 in this game. We'll move into Saturday football. And it's another flogging, in all honesty. And this one was in Ballarat. It was the Western Bulldogs against Port Adelaide. And the Doggies got the job done quite comfortably. They win this one 20 goals 11, 131 to 5, 11, 41 for Port Adelaide. They put them to the absolute sword in this game. It didn't happen quickly, or at the start at least, but when it did happen quickly. First quarter was a bit of a arm wrestle, I guess you'd say. It was 2 goals apiece. Port Adelaide led by 3 points at quarter time. But then the Doggies just turned it on. They kicked the first 5, of the second quarter, and extended that out to a 26-point lead at halftime. But you still felt like maybe Port Adelaide could get themselves back into it at this stage. And then the third quarter came around, and it just got really bad. From about the halfway mark, Port Adelaide managed a couple quick ones midway through the quarter, and it was like, oh, maybe they're a chance just to keep themselves in this. And then it just went bang, 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 bang. And the Doggies kicked the last 5 of the quarter to lead almost by 60 points at 3-quarter time, and then it just continued to get bad. Port Adelaide didn't kick a goal in the last quarter, whereas the Doggies got 5 goals, 5 to really put this one to bed, and not a good game. Port Adelaide, what is going on with them? They've had a couple games in Victoria as well as Fremantle now that have been atrocious. They lost by 91 points to Collingwood in round 1. We all forgave it. It was round 1. It was in Melbourne, but this one, I don't know if there's an excuse. 90-point loss is an absolute drubbing. If you're a genuine contender, you should not be dropping multiple games by 90 points or more. It's just, you can't be doing that, surely. Stats here, plus 110 disposals for the Doggies, plus 26 inside 50s for the Doggies. They just controlled this match. It was done from the clearances, plus 14, plus 9 in centre clearances, plus 5 in stoppage clearances. Contested footy, uncontested footy was ridiculous, plus 90. They weren't turning it over. Port Adelaide, every time they had the ball, they basically turned it over. They had 5 extra turnovers from 100 and something less disposals, which is ridiculous. It was uncontested footy, it was contested footy, it was whatever it was. It was Doggies in control. We'll get to the best players shortly, and that's going to tell you the same story. It was just a one-way game from start to finish here. A look at some of the other interesting things from this game. Scoring-wise, Doggies scored well from stoppage. They dominated stoppage, but they got 78 points from stoppage, which is insanely high. I don't have it in front of me, but that would be close to one of the better returns from any team this year. So a really good sign for the Doggies. They have a strong midfield, and it's really getting cracking at the moment. So they won stoppage scoring 78 to 21. Scoring from turnover 41 to 14. Really good return. And the scoring from forward half is where they dominated this one. They got 91 of their total of 116 or whatever it was from forward half. That's insane. 91 to 25 in forward half scoring. It was just, one-way traffic, no doubt about it. Best players, 2 players obviously stand out in this one. Ed Richards and Tim English, outstanding games, but you could put any one of the Bulldogs players in that list of who played really well. They were really good. There weren't too many players that didn't perform. One being Tom Liberatore. He rated as a below average, but he was carried in this one, which is fair enough because he's been outstanding this year. So it's good that some of the others carried the load this one. So 3 elite players for the Bulldogs. Ed Richards, inside mid. He was the highest rated midfielder of the week. He was also the highest rated player of the week, I think. Outstanding game. Tim English, he was the second best ruckman for the round. He had an outstanding game. He was I think he had 17 score involvements from off the top of my head, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I think that is the highest amount of anybody this year. I'll have to go check my stats to know for sure. But 17 score involvements is ridiculous. Aaron Norton, key forward, was also rated elite in this game. Then the top class players were Bont, Bailey Dale was a general defender, Joel Frazier was as an outside mid, Riley West as a general forward. Matthew Kennedy was outstanding. He was above average. Treloar in his first game only rated average as an inside mid, but still was the 9th best player on the ground. Really good performance from pretty much their whole team. They had a couple players that were lowly ranked, but not terribly ranked. Their second worst player, or their worst that played at least half the game time, was Riley Sanders, and he still rated a 31.12, which is a pretty high score. So, to be the worst player, it's not a high score naturally, but it's not a bad to be your worst. He was 37th best on ground for that, whereas Port Adelaide, 0 players rated elite. Won't surprise you there because they were terrible. 1 player was in the top class range, so that's the top 25%. That was Zach Butters. He's had an outstanding start to his season. He's played now 5 games, and he's putting up some really consistently good numbers, so he's been really good. They had a few players in the above average range, but not enough. They only had 6 in that range, and a bit like Fremantle before, a lot of players in the below average range. So they ended up with 14 in the below average range, which is just too many. You're not going to be winning games if you have that many people not performing. Not much else to say about them. I don't think. It was a really good performance from the Bulldogs. It was not a good performance from Port Adelaide. Brownlow votes is a tough one. This could go many ways. Plenty of midfielders played really well for the Bulldogs. I've gone Ed Richards with the 3. I think he was outstanding. I've gone Tim English for the 2. He also arguably could get the 3. He was fantastic. Bontempelli was also incredibly good in this game. I've given him 1, but there's plenty of other players that also could get votes. Kennedy was good. Bailey Dale was good. Fraser was outstanding. Treloar was good. So there's plenty of people that could get votes, but I've gone Ed Richards, Tim English, Marcus Bontempelli. We'll move into the next game, which should be Saturday afternoon football. It was Adelaide hosting Carlton in an important game for both clubs, and one team absolutely stood up, the other one not so much. Adelaide win this one in the end very comfortably, 16-14, 1-10 to 7-8, 50. There wasn't too many points of this game. It looked like it was going to be an even battle, in all honesty. It was 5 goals to 2 in the first quarter. It was 3 goals to 1 in the second. And then the gates kind of opened after that. It was 5 goals to 2 third quarter, and they finished 3 goals to 2 in the last. So winning all 4 quarters, they won by 60 points. Adelaide Crows could be the real deal here. Fantastic performance from them to win this one. They had a lot more of the football, plus 70 disposals in this one, plus 22, in inside 50s. So just controlled the territory battle all day long. Clearances, plus 8 for the Crows, which was mainly due to the fact, entirely due to the fact that they dominated sending clearances 16-6. Contested football went the way of the Crows, as did uncontested football. Once again, the team that had less of the football had more turnovers. It's a key indicator. There's no doubt about it. If you have more turnovers than the opposition, you're setting yourself up to lose, especially if you're having less of the football, as well as the fact that you're turning it over more. Outside of that, very low tackle game. Adelaide minus 20 on their average, and Carlton also minus 20 on their average. So both teams are well below their average in tackle count. Looking at, obviously the expected score was Adelaide winning. Maybe not by quite as much as they did, but certainly winning comfortably enough. Final shot tally was 31-15, so pretty comprehensively the way of the Crows. Scoring wise, it was across the board. 46 from stoppage and 52 from turnover for the Crows, so pretty even across the board there. Same can be said for Carlton, 27 from stoppage, 22 from turnover. It was forward half, it was centre bounce though. Adelaide Crows, as we said, they were plus 10 in centre clearances, and they turned that into scoring. 5 goals, 3 they managed from the centre bounce, which is ridiculous. 5 goals, 3. How many centre clearances? 16. So exactly half of their centre clearances they turned into a score. That is absurd. Carlton just could not defend the centre bounce. It's just not good enough. It is when it's easiest to score, obviously, because it's the 6-6-6 rule in effect. But yeah, just Carlton couldn't stop them. When they got the clearance, which is quite often, they were good at turning it into scores. Best players in this one, Jordan Dawson, Isaac Rankin and Alex Neil-Bullen were the 3 players that rated as elite. So Dawson and Rankin both inside mids, Alex Neil-Bullen as a general forward. Max Michaelani and Isaac Cumming both were also top class. Carlton had 0 people rate as elite. The 2 best players for them were Paddy Cripps and Nick Haynes, both rated top class. lot of below average for Carlton, as you kind of expect. They lost by 60 points. Key players, key names in that list. Harry Mackay, he was 45th best player on the ground. Sam Doherty, 41. Tom De Koning, as a ruckman, was rated 25th on the ground. He was below average. Sam Walsh, he was ranked 20th on the ground, below average. So just some bad signs, bad numbers there for them. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was a domination by Adelaide. It was a statement game, and they absolutely bought it. Carlton had been filling us with a little bit of confidence the last 3 weeks. 2 really dominant wins over some low-ranked teams, and then managed to win last week against a more competitive team. But this week, they just did not bring it at all, and they lost quite convincingly. The Brownlow votes I've given for this game: 3, Jordan Dawson. I think he was clearly best on ground, in my opinion. 2 to Isaac Rankin. He was clearly second best, in my opinion. The 1 vote I've given to Paddy Cripps. He was outstanding in a losing team, but whether the fact that they lost by 60 points or not deters his chances or not, I'm not sure. I've given him 1, but there's plenty of arguments that could go towards Neil Bullen, Rochelle, Peatling, maybe Worrell, Rory Laird, Malera. All these players had plenty of the ball, but I just think Paddy Cripps maybe deserves that 1 vote. He was very good in a losing team. He just had zero support, in all honesty. We move on to Saturday night football. I'm going to start with West Coast v Melbourne. This was over in the West. There was 2 games happening at this time. The other one was the better one, but we'll start with West Coast, Melbourne. And it was a funny old game, let's be honest. Pretty competitive first quarter. 2 goals to 0, but West Coast had 0 goals 5, so certainly wasted their opportunities early. They then put up a massive fight in the second quarter and managed to win just their 3rd quarter of the season. And actually led at halftime by a kick. They kicked 4 goals 2 in the second quarter to 1 goal 5 for Melbourne. But after halftime, they kicked the first goal, West Coast, but after that it was basically one-way traffic for the rest of the night. Second half scoring went 13 goals 5 for Melbourne to 7 goals 3 for the Eagles. Melbourne ended up comfortable enough winners, winning it by 32 points over in the West. They've won 3 in a row. The season's sort of back on track. I don't think we expect them to get into finals contention, but they're certainly at least looking better than they were 3 weeks ago, where they were struggling to beat or be competitive against anybody. Granted, this is against West Coast, who have not been competitive so far this year. Look at some of the stats. Melbourne controlled the stat sheet as well as the scoreboard, plus 50 odd or 40 something disposals, plus 16 inside 50s. Absolutely dominated clearance game, plus 23. We'll get to that in a minute because outstanding game by the ruckman. Contested footy, they had more of it. Uncontested footy, they did turn it over a lot, Melbourne, but they did also have the football a lot more than West Coast, so that's more what you expect in a game. So not a bad sign that for West Coast, like some of the other teams who have had less of the ball and or still turned it over more. They were good at creating turnovers, West Coast. Maybe not converting it into scores often enough, but that may come with a bit more experience and a bit more composure and execution, I guess. Moving on from that, it was a clear better team performance, I think, overall from Melbourne. They should have won. They did win. They ended up with 8 extra shots. They certainly looked a better team. As we said, they scored they did dominate the clearances, Melbourne, and they scored pretty well from that. They won at 47-26. The turnover game, as we were talking about, West Coast actually managing to create more turnovers than Melbourne, but weren't able to score from it. So West Coast got just 44 points from turnovers, whereas Melbourne got 55. So Melbourne not great in that area, but when they did get the turnovers, they converted it pretty decently, whereas West Coast really good at creating the turnovers, but not so good at getting scores from it. Scoring from forward half was pretty important in this game, 54 to 30 in favour of Melbourne. And centre bounce, there was 6 goals kicked from the centre bounce in this game, 4 for Melbourne, 2 for West Coast. Moving into the best players out there on this one. Best player of the round, Max Gawn. Absolute outstanding performance from him. Showed why he is still the number 1 ruckman in the competition. He was absolutely dominant in the ruck contest in this game. Outstanding performance. Clear best on ground performance. Great return from him. Other elite players for for Melbourne, Daniel Turner as a key forward was really good. He's put together a good couple weeks. Cade Chandler as a general forward. He's been really good this season. He's moving up the ranks and, in all honesty, could be in the conversation at the moment as one of the top 5 or 6 general forwards in the competition so far this year. I will be releasing rankings across the ground this week. It will probably be a video. It will probably also go out on my social medias and stuff. Just because we're basically a third of the way through the season, so we're going to go through that this week. They also had plenty of top-class players. Christian Petrarca, Caleb Windsor, Ed Langdon and Jake Melksham all rated top class. Meanwhile, for West Coast, they had 2 players rate elite. One of them a key defender, Oscar Allen. One a general forward in Jack Graham. Other good players for West Coast, Elijah Hewitt was good, Ryan Marrick was good, and Ruben Gidney rated pretty well, but his last quarter wasn't spectacular. Brownlow votes, I've gone Max Gawn 3. He was clearly best on ground. He is outstanding form and deserves the 3 votes. 2, I think, goes to Christian Petrarca. 2 weeks in a row for Melbourne that those 2 have got the 3-2 for me. And then Daniel Turner gets the 1. And that is a wrap on West Coast v Melbourne. Well, next up we have Collingwood Geelong. Saturday night football. Game of the round for sure. Maybe game of the season so far. It was an absolute cracker on Saturday night. It was a game that you just didn't know who was going to win, in all honesty. It started off with Geelong kicking the first 3 of the match and looking in control before Collingwood took over the game late in the first, early in the second. Got themselves out early in the third quarter, out to a 20-point lead roughly. Looked in control, and then Geelong just turned it on. They turned the game around. They started forcing more contest, and Collingwood just fell away, in all honesty. It was a bit of mix of both. Geelong bought some better attacking play, and Collingwood just couldn't run with them for a long period there. Geelong got out by 3 goals with about 5 minutes to go, and it looked all over. And then all of a sudden, Collingwood's never die attitude came in, and they managed to kick 2 late goals. Arguably should have been 3 if the Lockie Schultz one went through, which that's an argument for another day. And Collingwood, got within a kick with 20 seconds to go. They got a free kick out of the centre bounce. Well, not out of the centre bounce. There was a centre bounce, another ball up. On the second ball up, it was given holding the ball. With about 6 seconds to go, it was rammed forward by still side bottom. Jack Crisp, in his milestone game, took a mark about 48 metres out, so was kicking from just beyond the 50 after the siren to win the game. Any child, boy, girl, dream. Every child's dream that loves football growing up. And he couldn't kick the goal. He missed it. He shanked it a bit left. It was never going in. And Geelong held on for that 3-point win. Cracking game. 12 goals, 15.87 for Collingwood, 13-12.90 for Geelong. Could have gone either way many times, this one. In the end, Geelong get the chocolates. They get the 4 points. Big win for them. A look at some of the stats in this one. Collingwood had more of the ball, had more inside 50s, +6 in that regard. Clearances were pretty level in the end, 37-36 in favour of Collingwood. They did dominate sending clearances overall, though, 16-10. Uncontested football was definitely Collingwood, whereas contested football, certainly in that second half, all Geelong's way, +13 for the match. Collingwood did control the marks, the uncontested marks of this game. Tackle numbers were pretty even, +8 for Collingwood, around about their average. Geelong just a bit below their average. But that's the key stats in that regard. I look at some of the numbers here. Collingwood had 7 extra shots in this game. It was 30-23, which will tell you that the expected score was definitely Collingwood winning this one, roughly by about 3 goals. So they were probably kicking themselves for that fact. That doesn't mean they should have won. It just means they had opportunities and wasted them. And that's the key thing I think Collingwood will take out of this, is their wasted opportunities. Scoring, I think the big thing here is Collingwood, as we said, dominated centre clearances. Did not score from them, though. Just 1 goal, 1 for the game, whereas Geelong managed 2 goals from the centre bounce. So a little bit of a false narrative, I think, about the fact that Collingwood dominated centre clearances, because they didn't convert them at all throughout the game. Scoring from stoppages actually was Geelong 41 to Collingwood 24 for the match. Collingwood kept themselves in it with turnover scoring, though, 63-48 in turnover scoring. In the end, Geelong win the game, though. A look at some of the best players and their ratings in this game, starting with the winning team, as we usually do. Geelong, 3 elite players. Paddy Dangerfield as a general forward. He did play in the midfield a little bit late, but his final quarter was outstanding. He was the number 1 player on the ground. He was the number 1 general forward for the game, for the round. Sorry, outstanding performance from him. Sean Manor, another general forward, also rated elite, and Ollie Dempsey, as an outside mid, also was in that elite category. They had 3 players in top class: Bailey Smith, Jack Bowers, and Sam De Koning, all in the top class. Plenty of players in the average and above average category, only about 7 or 8 in the below average. On the other side of the fence, there was only 1 elite player in the end for Collingwood, and that was Josh Dacos, running off the half-back line. He was elite. They did have plenty of players in the top class category, though. So they had Scott Pendlebury as an inside mid. They had Darcy Cameron as a ruckman, Harry Perryman as a general defender, and Brody Myercheck key forward. Paddy Lipinski as an outside mid. Some key names that just haven't been performing great of late for Collingwood. Bobby Hill was 44th best player on the ground. He kicked a goal early, but didn't do much else other than maybe a chase down tackle that was given a trip. Geordie De Goey's struggling. I doubt we'll see him play against Fremantle this week. I would almost be certain that they will rest him. He was 40th best on ground. Beau McQuarrie, 43rd. Jack Crisp, 34th. So just a few names there that just are lacking form at the moment. Meanwhile, for Geelong, it was all the key players that were either at average or above, really. Like their lowest ranked players in this game. Outside of Jeremy Cameron, in all honesty, he struggled to get involved in this game for most parts of it. He ended up 37th best player on the ground. But that was more than made up for by the other big names, mainly Paddy Dangerfield and Bailey Smith. So Brownlow votes in this one. I've gone 3 for Paddy Dangerfield. I think he was outstanding, especially that last quarter. 2 to Scott Pendlebury, just to make us think that it's 2015 again, and Dangerfield and Pendlebury dominating Brownlow counts. And 1 vote to Bailey Smith, who started really well, finished really well. Was a little bit quiet throughout stages of the game, but overall was really good. Other players that I could see getting a vote would be Darcy Cameron, Josh Dacos, maybe Steele side bottom for Collingwood, On the Geelong side of the fence, Sean Manor, Ollie Dempsey was really good. Jack Bowes as well could potentially sneak something. Yeah, I think that's a wrap on that game, though. It was an absolute cracker. There's no doubt about it. It was the best game of the weekend, and arguably, most likely, the best game we've had this season so far. We move into Sunday football, and we start off with the Sydney Derby. It was Sydney GWS at the SCG, and Sydney got the chocolates 12-15-87 to 10-13-73. Sydney just controlling this matchup over the last year or so. They managed to win all 3 times they met last year. They do it again here, and it was all done early. They kicked the first 5 goals of the match, and then just kind of from that point just held on. A couple times GWS kicked 2 or 3 goals in a row, but every time they did, Sydney had the answer. Ends up being a 14-point margin. They did kind of try to sneak their way back in, but Sheldrick kicked a goal with about 3 minutes to go just to settle them and control, I guess, the final result in a way. But overall, yeah, it was Sydney too good, and mainly due to that first burst where they kicked 5 goals to start the game. Numbers won't surprise you. GWS had plenty of the football, plus 50 odd touches, as they do most weeks. They do get a lot of possessions. Inside 50 count ended up 54 apiece. One of the most lopsided free kick counts you'll ever see. GWS 27 to Sydney's 9, which is crazy. Doesn't mean it was bad umpiring. Might mean that, but we don't get into that here. But it's a very lopsided free kick count, that's for sure. Clearances went +3 to GWS, so not a massive difference there. GWS dominated contested football, which they're always okay at contested football, but they usually dominate uncontested football more than contested, but they dominated kind of both areas, I guess, but especially that contested football. Other than that, I don't think there's anything too exciting in those stats. Moving on to some of the more important things, team stats, I guess. Shots, always an indicator of who had more opportunities. Sydney were +1 here, but more importantly, they were expected to win based on most expected score calculations that I've seen. Scoring from stoppages +7 for Sydney, so did okay there. Turnover was really good for them, +14, 51 to 37. GWS, as they usually do, transitioned it really well from that back half, managing 40 out of their 70-something points from the defensive half, whereas Sydney were doing it more from the forward line, getting 43 to 31 in that regard, and also scoring 2 goals from centre bounce to GWS's 0. All we've got to do now is to look at the best players. Start with the winning team. Only one player rated elite on the ground, and that was Chad Warner, inside mid. He was outstanding. He got the medal for best on ground in this one. He was good from start to finish. He was definitely the difference, I think, in this game. He was outstanding. Only 2 players for Sydney rated in the top class category. Nick Blakey as a general defender, even though he did have Stringer when he came on as the sub, and Stringer managed 3 goals in that short period. But up to that point, Blakey had been really good. James Jordan as a general forward also was in the top class category. Anybody that is big name that was really not that great, Brodie Grundy was in below average. He's not having the best season. Other than that, Will Hayward's kind of struggling as well. I think he was ranked 39th on the ground. On the other side of the fence, GWS had nobody in the elite range, had plenty in top class though. Led by Finn Callaghan, he was, as an inside mid, really good. Both their outside mids were good in Jacob Ware and Callan Ward, getting plenty of it. Connor Iden and Lockie Whitfield as general defenders were in the top class category. Cadman as a key forward, and Xavier O'Halloran as a general forward, all rated in the top class category. Big names in their below average list. Jesse Hogan was ranked 42nd on the ground. Toby Green 41st. Jack Buckley 37th. So they had a lot of players, big name players in that category. Obviously, Stringer came off the bench and was good in the time that he was on the field. He played less than half the game though. And I mean, he wasn't bad. And Toby Bedford, same can be said for him. He played less than half the game and obviously ended up as a below average player because of that. Brownlow votes in this one. I think Chad Warner clearly gets the 3. He was the best on ground by far, I believe. 2 and 1 have gone to GWS, the losing team though. Finn Callaghan was really good, and Tom Green I gave the 1. Other players that could be in that argument, Callum Ward, Lockie Whitfield, Connor Iden, but I don't think it would go that way. For Sydney, there weren't that many standouts. Like Justin McInerney was good. He could potentially get something. Blakey, maybe. Other than that, I just don't see who else gets votes. And in all honesty, I think it should go Chad Warner, Finn Callaghan, and Tom Green. We move on to the second last game of the round, and we headed to the MCG for it. Hawthorn, Richmond. It was always going to be lopsided, I think, and that is exactly how it played out. The Hawks end up winning this one comfortably. It wasn't the prettiest of performances, but they got the job done. 16-13, 109 to 6-8, 44 for Richmond. The game started with a pretty lackluster first quarter. It was 2 goals, 5-0-3 at quarter time. It nearly looked like Richmond were going to go goalless to half-time, but they did kick 2 late goals in that quarter within the space of about 2 minutes. All of a sudden it was like, oh, maybe there's just a sniff, but it ends up being 50-16 at half-time. And then it just kind of continued in that trajectory, 27-12 in the third quarter, and then blew them away again in the last quarter, 32-16 to get a comfortable win. Not outstanding, but certainly comfortable. 65-point winners in the end, Hawthorn. The stat sheet, as you would expect, was dominated by Hawthorn, plus 117 disposals, plus 9 inside 50s, plus 7 clearances, most of that stoppage clearance-wise. Dominated contested footy, uncontested footy, had less turnovers as well. Just the 50 turnovers for the match is an incredible effort from Hawthorn for the amount of football they had, whereas Richmond had 61 turnovers. Uncontested marks was huge from Hawthorn, well over 100 uncontested marks in this game. Tackle count pretty low for Hawthorn standards, about average for Richmond. Yeah, that's those numbers. What else can we look at that was important in this game? No surprise that Hawthorn were the expected winners based on expected score. 30 shots to 20, so plus 10 shots for the game. They did it across the ground, really. 39-19 from stoppages in favour of Hawthorn. 63-25 in turnover game. Really good transition from the back half. 51-22 in favour of Hawthorn. It was the forward half that Richmond could not score from. Just 1 goal 3 from the forward half, which you're just not going to win games doing that. 44, meanwhile, from Hawthorn. And both teams managed 2 goals from the centre bounce. A jump into the best players in this game. And it will surprise you not that there's a lot of players in the elite range for Hawthorn. They managed to get 6 elite players. 2 key defenders, Josh Battle and Tom Barras. 1 inside mid, which was Jai Newcomb. 1 outside mid in Massimo D'Ambrosio. A general defender in CJ. And 1 in the key forwards, which was Jack Gunston. They also had 3 top-class players in Josh Weddle, Jack Ginnivan and Finn McGuinness. Very few players rated as below average. Dylan Moore did, Luke Bruce, Harry Morrison. Lloyd Meek didn't have his best day out. He was ranked 23rd on the ground. But overall, it was just a really good team performance from Hawthorn, and they had plenty of players that did rate elite this week. On the other side of the fence, it's not the same story. 0 elite players, 1 top-class player in Nick Vlosten, and then only a couple of above-average players, Luke Traynor as a general defender and Seth Campbell as a general forward. Everyone else was either average or below average. Tom Lynch was 46th best player on the ground. Really poor performance from him. Other big names that did no good for them. Ben Miller was 40th. Nathan Broad 36th. McIntosh 33rd. So just a lot of players that just didn't really do much in this one. Jaden Short ranked 27th on the ground. Brownlow votes for this one. Where am I looking? There we go. Massimo D'Ambrosio, I gave the 3 votes to. It could go to any number of players, in all honesty, from Hawthorn. They had the best players on the ground. They should get all 3 best players. But I went Massimo D'Ambrosio. I think he was really good in this one. Jai Newcomb, I've given 2. He was outstanding. Could easily get the 3. And Josh Battle, I've given the 1. He had plenty of touches. Defended really well all day. Outstanding performance from him. He was actually the best player on the ground and the best key defender of the week. That just leaves us with one game to look at, and it was Sunday night football, being that there's a public holiday in Queensland on Monday. We've got some Sunday night football, and it was Brisbane Gold Coast, the Q Clash at the Gabba. And Brisbane get the job done, 9-12-66 to 7-7-49. Not the most prettiest of performances, but one that Brisbane kind of controlled from start to finish. It always looked like they were winning this game. Probably didn't win it by as much as you felt like they should have, based on what you were seeing with your eyes. But they won by 17 points. They got the job done. After a slow start, 1 goal apiece at quarter time, Brisbane came out of the first quarter and they scored right on quarter time, and then came out of the quarter time break and kicked the first 3 and really got themselves going. 2 of those through Charlie Cameron. They led by 11 points at halftime. They extended it right out just before 3-quarter time to have a solid lead of 34 points at 3-quarter time. Gold Coast did come back late, managing the only 3 goals of the last quarter, all in the last 10 minutes or so. But it was too little too late. Brisbane get the points. A look at some of the stats in this one. Brisbane did have more of the footy. They had plus 16 inside 50s. So that's how they play football. They always do. They always have more inside 50s. They're not always great at converting it, but they will get the ball forward a lot. Plus 19 clearances is a massive difference. Plus 7 centre clearances, plus 12 stoppage clearances. A lot more contested footy, more uncontested footy, less turnovers. Everything just points to the fact that Brisbane were the better team on the night in this one. If you were to look at the shots, it was 25 for Brisbane, 14 for Gold Coast. So not massive amount of shots for Brisbane, just 25, but a lot more than Gold Coast managed. Scoring wise, not much came from stoppages, even though there was a lot of them. 23 to 15 in favour of Brisbane. 42 to 34 in favour of Brisbane from turnover. Brisbane did it from the forward half, 7-6-48 to 22 from Gold Coast in that forward half scoring, whereas defensive half, Gold Coast transitioned the ball quite well, as they have done this season so far. So their back line transition through to their forward line has been really good, and this was no exception. But they just weren't quite good enough on the day, let's be honest. A look at the best players in this game, as we always do. We'll start with the winning team. Harris Andrews and Charlie Cameron were the 2 elite rated players for Brisbane in this game. 1 key defender, 1 small forward. They were 5th and 8th best player on the ground. But really good performance from them in terms of their position. 3rd best key defender of the week was Harris Andrews. 5th best, small forward for Charlie Cameron. A lot of top class players and a lot of midfielders in the top class range. Will Ashcroft, he was best on ground. He was outstanding. Lachie Neale was really good. Hugh McCluggage, the three inside mids, all outstanding. Josh Dunkley was solid. He only rated average, but was 12th best on ground. And then three other top class players for Brisbane: Jasper Fletcher as a general defender, and then Levi Ashcroft and Jared Berry as outside mids. Not too many people didn't perform. Eric Hipwood was 33rd best player. Cam Rayner was probably below his best. He was below average. But overall, it was just a good team performance, I think, from Brisbane. No massive standouts, but no massive low rated good players, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. On the other side of the fence, Gold Coast had a couple standouts. Two key defenders played really well. Mac Andrew and Sam Collins both rated elite. John Noble rated top class as a general defender. But outside of that, they only had two other people rate above average in this game. And interestingly enough, all players that rated above average or better for Gold Coast in this game, all but one were a defender. The one that wasn't was Miller, who's obviously an inside mid. He had a really good game, but outside of him, the other five players that were above average in the rating system all were defenders. Two key defenders: Mac Andrews, Sam Collins, and then the three general defenders: Noble, Jeffrey, Uland. The worst of good players: Ben King. He was 42nd best on ground. Didn't really get going at all. He was also the 42nd ranked key forward of the round, so not a great performance from him. Matt Rao, he struggled. He was the 30th best on ground. 71st best inside mid for the round. Not a great return from him. Daniel Rioli was a little bit quiet, especially compared to some of the other general defenders that they had. But yeah, Brisbane, better team basically. It was at the Gabba, so you would expect them to win, and that's what they did. So that's a wrap on all 9 matches from the football on the weekend. We're going to look through a couple other things before we wrap this episode up. We'll start with my leaderboard in the Brownlow medal. If I can find where I have it, just hang with me for a sec. I'm sure I've got it somewhere. Here we go. So, Brownlow medal leaderboard after 8 rounds. It's changing every week at the moment. It's pretty tightly contested up towards the top, and I don't think there's been any standouts in that regard so far this year. We've got Jordan Dawson taking the lead though. He's up to 12. Andrew Brayshaw in second with 11. We then have a 4-way tie with Isaac Rankin, Hugh McCluggage, Lachie Neale and Zach Merritt all on 10. A host of players: George Hewitt, Caleb Sarong, Bailey Smith, Matt Rao and Jai Newcomb on 9. On 8 is Nick Dacos, Toby Green, Connor Rose, Zach Butters, Jack McRae and Chad Warner. And then the 7s are still side bottom: Max Holmes, Max Gawn, Jack Sinclair and Ed Richards. That is your top 22 after 8 rounds. Plenty of other players still in contention. Long way to go. We're only about a third of the way through the season, so it's still anyone's game in that regard. And then in my MVP voting, so if you're new around here, we give votes to the top 5 players for both teams every round. The winning team, best player gets 10, and then we move backwards 8, 6, 4 and 2. And then for the losing team, best player gets 5, and we move backwards 4, 3, 2, 1. After 8 rounds, Andrew Brayshaw still holds on to the lead, even though he didn't poll a vote this week. He's on 48. Second is a tie between Hugh McCluggage and still side bottom on 42. Next up is a tie again, Bailey Smith and Connor Rose on 41. Nick Dacos in 6th with 40. In equal 7th is Lachie Neale and Jack McRae with 37. And then equal 9th is Caleb Sarong, Max Gawn, Tristan Cherry, Jack Sinclair with 35. 13th is George Hewitt, Matt Rao, Lloyd Meek and Zach Butters on 34. Noah Anderson, Ed Richards on 32. And then to round out the top 20, Isaac Rankin and Toby Nankervis on 31. Interestingly enough, Jordan Dawson, who is leading by Brownlow medal count, is sitting in 21st in the MVP voting. Just a weird anomaly, I guess. Next up, there's two more things to look at. We're going to be going through the ELO rating and we'll look at how my tips went this week. Before we do that, don't forget to follow me on all my social medias. All Aussie Rules, we post daily on a lot of them, especially Instagram and TikTok, so go check them out. As I said, we will be doing countdowns of our top players of the year so far this week on socials and on the YouTube channel, so go check them out. All Aussie Rules everywhere. Let's jump in and check out the ELO ratings for every team after round 8. Brisbane hold on to top spot. Obviously, they won. They're at a 1680. Collingwood just hold on to second, 1606, just ahead of Hawthorn, who are third. Western Bulldogs move up a spot into 4th. Geelong also move up a spot into 5th. Port Adelaide drop 2 spots down to 6. Sydney, with their win over GWS, moved up 2 spots. GWS stay in 8th. Meanwhile, Fremantle dropped 2 spots down to 9th with 1525. Gold Coast is 10th. They stay 10th. St Kilda stay 11th but are catching. Adelaide also, they move up 1 spot. They're into 12th. They're probably the anomaly at the moment. They're the team that probably most people would expect are higher, and I also think should be higher, but they just came from such a low point at the end of last season. They're the first team that's not above 1500, so 1500 is the baseline average. Essendon, they're 13th. They moved up 1 spot thanks to their win over North Melbourne. Carlton dropped 2 spots after losing in Adelaide. Melbourne stay 15, Richmond stay 16th, but it tightens up there. North Melbourne 17th, and then West Coast are safely in 18th spot. Final thing to look at is my tips for the weekend. We had a solid weekend. We went 7 out of 9. We got Essendon on game 1. Pretty accurate margin, just 6 points off there. Fremantle was a bad one. They were atrocious, way off on the margin, obviously, because we got it wrong. Western Bulldogs won by more than that, but still, we got it right. Adelaide won by a lot more than that, but still pretty solid. Melbourne won by about 3 goals extra than I had. Geelong, we were pretty close with that one, just 2 points off, so another tick there. GWS we got wrong. It was the other way by about 3 goals, 2 or 3 goals. So we're a little bit off there. Hawthorn, pretty close to the correct margin, and same with Brisbane, just 2 points off. We go 7 of 9, which takes us to 48 out of 71 for the season. Just over 2/3 of the games we have got right so far. Hopefully the next few weeks we can continue to progress and get better. But yeah, make sure you come back Thursday for our preview of round 9. 9 more matches coming up this weekend. We're going to be previewing all 9. Hopefully find you some winners. As I said, we'll be going through best players in the competition this week on the YouTube channel and on the social media. So go check that out. All Aussie Rules everywhere. I thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. My name is Jay. This was the All Aussie Rules podcast. This was episode 28 of season 2025. We'll be back on Thursday with episode 29.